It's quite a challenge tonight. I have, you never know just what the audience is going to be. I have everything tonight from my 10-year-old great-nephew who has come along to find a quiet place to do his homework, I think, and also a colleague, a postgraduate colleague from YTU, and my teacher and supervisor, Claire Reynolds. So we have the full spectrum of among the audience. And I could perhaps have called this something like Signs and Symbols, Metaphor and Mystery, Cracking Secret Codes. But I thought I'd go for the straight title and leave you to work out for yourself some of the issues that I'm uncovering here. Now, I'm going to, if I can manage this, put up the first slide. Yes. I want to begin by asking you to take a few moments to look at this painting and notice your responses. What do you see? Is your eye drawn to the three flames in the centre of the picture? Are they in fact flames? Are they flames? Are they petals of a flower?
I see a person.
What?
I see a person.
Sorry?
Is there a figure in between the flames?
Well, that's what I'm asking what you see. So you are going to. What does the picture suggest to your imagination? You don't have to have an answer. You just have to look and watch what you're thinking about. Perhaps your eye starts to move around. There's a suggestion of a circle, and suggestions of a circle spiralling tend to move you inwards or perhaps outwards. And as you move outwards, there's more. You get away, a bit away from the flaming reds and into the calming blue, and perhaps even further where the picture merges into grey and black. Just look. Now, these aspects that I've drawn attention to, the colour, the shapes, the circling, the tones, what I call the language of the artist. I have to shout.
Just speak up a little bit.
I have to shout, yes. I call this the artist's language. This is the language the artist uses to communicate to us. This is one of the things this whole talk is about. It's about the way artists communicate, and it applies everywhere, from a modern painting like this to medieval paintings to lots of things you see around you. And we respond to this language in different ways. Does something like this make you feel confused, curious, alarmed, peaceful, inspired? It's going to be different with everybody. I know this is done by Barbara Kenny, and she does things for us for church banners. The parish priest used to come and say, "Barbara, what is it about?" And she would say, "It's whatever you want it to be about." This time, this picture was done for a cover for the book about Catherine of Siena. So straight away, you're moving into a religious context. Once you put the picture on the cover of a book and say St Catherine of Siena, then it starts to mean it has another set of meanings. So then you might know that you're in a religious context. And then you might start to think, well, what do these symbols suggest in that context? Do flames say anything? Do circles? Does three? And then you can see how you might be reading another whole level of meaning into just this. Admittedly, it's an abstract picture. What we're doing here is looking at symbols, and I just want to take a little bit of time at the beginning, this is the hard stuff, to just say what I mean about the words, because I think it's helpful to understand them. So what do I mean by a symbol? I take a symbol to be essentially a physical object, such as a ring, a physical object that suggests something else. Or it can be a state of affairs, such as exchange of rings, that suggests something else. So the symbol is essentially an object, a physical object, or a state of affairs to do with an object. But when we start to speak about symbols, then something else is happening. We are moving to metaphors. And a metaphor, I'd say, is essentially words. Metaphor is a figure of speech. A symbol is an object. And the metaphors you could define as a figure of speech which speaks about one thing in terms that are seen to be suggestive of something else. A figure of speech, it speaks about one thing in terms that are seen to be suggestive of something else. As if we might say, that person is a snake in the grass. Now, you could say, well, that person is not literally a snake in the grass, so this isn't true or this isn't real. On the other hand, there is a reality, perhaps, that you're expressing by that phrase, that person is a snake in the grass, might be the truest thing you could say. So nothing is quite as it seems. I have another example of metaphor that I like, and it connects up with these pictures a bit, if I can get it off my finger, and that's the metaphor of the ring. And some of you may know the verse lines, one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. Here, this is verse, this is words. The ring is metaphor. The ring itself is a symbol, a physical object standing for something else. The ring does not bring them all in, the ring does not bind them. It's the power behind the ring that does. So there is the ring, used both as symbol and in the verses as metaphor. And symbols and metaphors are all around us. They're part and parcel of human communication, and they add a rich dimension to our lives. Once you start to see the symbols and the metaphors that are all around us, I think you can never be bored again. But that's by the way. We read, now for another example of metaphor, we read that St Catherine looked into God. That's a metaphor. No one can look into God or look at God. The phrase is a metaphor to suggest the way a mystic searches for meaning. We say, looked into God. But there I've introduced another word to define, and that's mystic. So mystic or mystical, and I take mystical to mean things hidden. There's a Greek word, mysterion. And so I'd say mystic is a person who searches for or speaks about or experiences things hidden. So now, in a religious context, we can say religion uses objects in ritual and worship to symbolise things and states that cannot otherwise be expressed. And religion uses metaphorical language to speak of an unknowable God. So to complete that quotation from Catherine, she said, "Looking into you, God, I see that my nature is a fire. For you, God, are no other than a fire of love. And you have given this nature to me when you created me in a fire of love." So here, religious symbol and metaphor are pointing to unseen realities. They are like a wheel, a great wheel of images, pointing to an unknowable God. That's the hard part. With that in mind, I want to move on now to show you, to begin to show you, especially one of the paintings from the series of the life of Catherine, which will, I think, make more sense, bearing in mind what I've said already. And then we'll go into that in some detail. And then there are 9 more pictures, which we'll go through till we get tired of it.